Anyway, back to me. After I got out of college, I worked for my girlfriend's father for 6 months while waiting for the Air Force. We had delayed enlistment because the Air Force was downsizing after the Vietnam War, and they didn't need me till December. So I went to work for my girlfriend's father, who owned a chemical factory in New Jersey. I lived at her. She was at school, so I lived at her house with her parents, and it was in Long Valley, New Jersey. So I worked at the chemical factory, which was very kind of him because I was completely incompetent as a chemical factory worker. I was, he made rocket fuels and specialty metals and chemicals. We made thallium malleate, which is very poisonous. We made iodine hydrogen periodate, which was a rocket fuel, and started by mixing metallic iodine, which looks like iron pyrite, only it's purple and it emits a purple gas, purple vapor. And this was way before OSHA or the EPA, and we would do all this stuff sometimes with gloves if it was irritating, but generally, we usually wore gloves, but not always, and no respirators, and we were mixing all these hazardous chemicals. I mean, I would pour hydrofluoric acid, which is very corrosive, into vats, wearing goggles and no mask. I just hold my head to the side to not breathe it, mixing it with metallic iodine or metallic thallium and then stir it with a big paddle or a mixer in a 55-gallon drum. No fans or anything to take off the vapors. We'd do it outside if it was particularly bad, but it was in the late fall, early winter. So making all of this stuff through multiple steps, precipitating out the salts that came from this in a washing machine with a canvas bag. I mean, this was really archaic stuff. We made all these specialty chemicals. I'd haul them around in a forklift. I remember hauling one drum of some iron compound that was black sludge, and going down forward instead of backwards, which was dumb. Dumping the entire thing on the ground. Thought, oh, I'm in trouble now. He was very nice about it, but I'm sure it cost him hundreds of dollars in materials. And, it just got swept down the drain into the leach pond down below the factory, which would never go now. I mean, it was a good thing for the EPA in many ways and for OSHA as well. We would boil compounds mixed with nitric acid that we would pour into, 5 gallons of nitric acid into some salts or metal and boil it with a steam boiler, and the fumes were coming and burn your eyes and your nose. I'm amazing I survived. I often wonder with all these things that I was making, especially the iodine compounds, whether, that's where my thyroid cancer came from in 1993, from breathing all these iodine fumes, which undoubtedly had some radioactive iodine mixed with it. Who knows? I called later to some of my coworkers and asked if they had any problems, with thyroid cancer, and they said, no, haven't. But here we are, 40 years later, and almost 50 years later, and I haven't talked to them in 30 years, so who knows. But anyway, that was my first job, and they were very kind to let me work there, and none of us knew any better. That's just how things were done back then. Like I said, good thing for working standards and safety standards now. Then the Air Force called me and said, you are going to Hill Air Force Base in Saudi Arabia. Not in Saudi Arabia, sorry, in Hill Air Force Base in Ogden, Utah. And I'd never been to Utah, so I thought that was pretty cool. Land of Mormons, right? So I went out there, and I was a civil engineering officer, and my job, to my great pleasure, was to design railroads for them. The base had about 50 miles of railroads to various missile and ammunition storage facilities on base. Well, this is great. I had to design some sidewalks and retaining walls and a few roads, which I knew nothing about, but railroads. I could design a railroad. So, well, at least I thought I could. I started designing and then found out I didn't know as much as I thought I did. So I had to go visit the engineering office for the Rio Grande Railroad down in Salt Lake. They were very kind. They showed me all their drawings, lent me some, told me all I needed to know about designing the railroad, and were very helpful. I visited down there several times and got a lot of good advice. So my job was to design it and then to do the quality assurance while they built it. And that was really interesting because, here's this green kid. I mean, I was only, 21 at the time. And so I went and worked on this in 1970. I guess I was 22. But, I'm Thomas's age, designing railroads for the Air Force. And they all thought my designs were good. They bid them out and they got contracted to build. So I would go out and spend a lot of the day checking to make sure that they built them to specifications. Well, the contractors, I've since learned, here I was designing stuff that they had been building for longer than I'd been alive. They said, these designs are not very good, but I'll tell you what, here's what we need to do, and we will build them how they need to be built. I thought, all right, well, show me what you got, and I'll take it and make sure we get the changes approved. And so I did that, and they ended up building them kind of a hybrid between what I wanted. They built it where I wanted, but as far as, materials and standards and so on, they said, here are the national standards. Let's use that instead. And that worked out okay. I had a senior enlisted guy who worked for our office, and he had done construction, and he was old enough to be my dad. Actually, he's probably old enough to be my grandfather, a chief master sergeant. And he said, sir, let me tell you how things go in the Air Force. You are technically in charge, but we know what we're doing. And so let me advise you with respect, sir, here, what you need to do. I thought, okay, show me what to do. I'll admit I'm young, and you've been doing this longer than I've been around. So, all right, show me. And I learned a lot from him about how to treat enlisted people, how to do construction, just a lot of good life lessons. One of my jobs while I was there, I ended up being the squadron executive officer. I was in charge of making sure the health and welfare of all the enlisted people while I was there. Well, that was pretty cool for a kid. It was, anyway, good learning experience. The senior enlisted guy would take me to inspect the barracks, right? And this was the height of, post-Vietnam War. A lot of enlisted guys were still using drugs back. This was before drug testing. So a lot of the enlisted guys were just pretty lax after the Vietnam War. We'd be walking along and walk by some young enlisted guy, and he wouldn't salute me. And the senior enlisted guy, the chief master sergeant, would grab him by the shoulder and say, "You, airman, you know who this is?" "No, sir." "And don't call me sir. Use the sir. He's your executive officer. You salute him when you go by, okay?" "Yes, yes, sir." "No, he's sir. You salute him. Call him sir." And he'd let him go. And this would happen over and over. I was younger than most of these guys. So that was an adventure. We would go to the enlisted barracks, and we would inspect for marijuana. We'd look under the bed, find a bong, look in a drawer, find all kinds of stuff, scrape the carpets with a credit card and find marijuana seeds in the carpet, look outside the windows, find the plants growing down below the windows. This would never happen today with all the drug testing, much more strict, but this was amazing to me. I hadn't been exposed to this side of life. So I learned a lot, needless to say, at Hill Air Force Base. And like I said in my conversion, my baptism video, I attended a Boy Scout group. I went and was an assistant scoutmaster with a Boy Scout troop there in Ogden, and you can hear about all of that in the other video.